Should you be concerned with Todd Gurley's unknown health? Why should A.J. Dillon be an important get in your Dynasty League and is starting tight end in your Football Guys draft a winning proposition? Plus, the 2019 FFPC 1250 Dynasty League number 10 winner, Cal Zarin, joins us to talk about going all in for a title, his thoughts on a couple of veteran tight ends that were selected in rookie drafts, and much, much more. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Let's begin now.
Broadcast live and heard around the world. You are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
Hey, thanks a lot, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all of you Bulkaholics and Gerzak addicts. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I am your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is the patron saint of fantasy football, the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. And you know what I like, Dave, before we get into it tonight? You were on the Chasing the Helmet podcast with former guests of this show, Scott Connor and Jay Reed. They gave you the same introduction.
Oh,
on the show, they called you the Dizzle, patron saint of fantasy football. It's not just this show.
That's great.
It's just common knowledge now at this point.
Yeah, I was so nervous going on that it just glossed over me when they said whatever.
You did a good job, by the way. I listened to the whole thing. You did a very good job.
Oh, thanks. That 8 minutes was
It was longer than 8 minutes, but it was great.
I'm glad I did well.
On the show tonight, besides giving Dave somewhat faint praise, we'll talk about a sleeper NFC North receiver, whether Van Jefferson is worth the wait in Dynasty, and speak with 2019 FFPC 1250 Dynasty League number 10 champion Cal Zarin about J.K. Dobbins, how he acquired two of the top rushers in the league, and much, much more. Shout out to the chat room right now. Feel free to post any questions you might have in there. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, we are at HSFF Hour. I am at Eric Balkman. Dave is at David Gerzak. Facebook.com/HSFF Hours. Where to reach us, 347-426-3682. That's 347-GAME-OVA. HighStakesFantasyFootball@gmail.com is where my best friend and our audio engineer, Bryce, and our mutual friend and producer, Rob, will be checking tonight. If you have any questions, make sure you get them in to us now. All right, so a couple of things I want to remind everybody at the top of the show. The FFPC main event early bird is live. Make sure that you are saving $100 off your first team and $400 off each additional team, whether you're drafting live or online. Dynasty Startup still available. We got some popping off tomorrow and on Sunday. Of course, Best Ball Slims, Best Ball Leagues, always active. And the Football Guys Players Championship. Get in on that early bird promotion as well.
Is there a draft tonight?
There's been a couple tonight, I think. Didn't one just start right now?
I mean, coming up.
Oh, yes, at midnight.
Oh, good.
There was 8 left last I saw.
Yeah, it still is.
Okay, so fill that up. Yours truly is commissioning that. And I'd love to be the commissioner of the draft where the $500,000 winner comes out. Remember, a $3.1 million prize pool. If you sign up for a team prior to June 15th and draft it before July 31st. Am I remembering those dates correctly, Dave?
Probably not, but I don't know what the hell they are.
All right. Then you will get a free $35 credit into your FFPC
June
account.
30th and July 15th.
That's what it is. It's sign up by June 30th, draft it by July 15th. Thank you so much.
Max is 3 per person.
Right, so you can get up to $105 in credits into your account if you do.
Yeah, and it's 3 for $1,000, so it's only $1,000 and you get all that.
You're saving $50 on that too.
The discounts, they're too good. We're gonna have to roll back the discounts.
How did you slip that past Alex?
I don't know. It's the same thing every year, and it works all right. I guess people do like it though. We actually enjoy people draft early. I mean, I think it's more fun that way.
I just, I think I mentioned this in one of the FFPC emails this week. we talk about drafting early. A couple of weeks, it's going to be June, man. Like, are we still talking about drafting early? I mean, like, we're kind of getting to the thick of drafting season now. And the draft is over. Free agency is basically over. The NFL, I just saw right before we went on the show, Goodell said you can start opening up your team facilities too. Right. So, I mean, this is all great news.
Well, that's the thing is, okay, well, some people want to wait until early September to find a draft. I get it. Then all the information's out. But it's May 15th. If you wait until August 7th, what will have changed? Probably nothing. I mean, there's virtually nothing that will have changed. I mean, there won't be any mini camps this year, right? Maybe there won't be even training camps. So who knows? So I think might as well draft now. It's not going to be much different.
Yeah, I was thinking about this too, and maybe we'll get into this in some future episodes. I don't think we have any emails about it tonight. On my weekday afternoon show on local radio here, Dave, it was basically preempted for the first 40 minutes because we had the Aaron Rodgers press conference, the first time he was publicly speaking after they drafted Jordan Love. And he referenced, somebody asked him about the quality of play this year because of no mini camps, no OTAs, maybe no training camp till very late. And he actually talked about the 2011 season when there was basically nothing. Like, you lost the whole offseason because of the CBA.
Yeah, the lockout strike thing going on.
And I think they lost one preseason game that year. And Rodgers said, he's like, I don't really remember the play being all that bad in 2011.
Yeah.
And I was listening, I can't remember what other podcast this was, or maybe I was reading on somebody's site. Once again, I can't cite my sources, but they were talking about.
I'm glad it wasn't another podcast that you actually can cite, because that's really annoying.
What, then I cite other podcasts?
Yeah. Sorry. That you listened to them in the first place. Don't listen to other crappy podcasts.
No, they're great podcasts. I don't listen to other crappy ones. This is the only crappy one I listen to.
I don't listen to this podcast.
They said that the rookies might have a down year this year because they'd be slow on the come up, slow on the learning curve.
Yeah.
But in 2011, that was the same case, and the rookies actually performed a little bit better than average that year. So
I guess our contention the last 2 weeks has been wrong.
Well, it's a small sample size. We don't really have any other year to go on than that one. But I think I'm
going to stay with my thoughts.
Okay. Well, you could be right, and honestly, you probably are. But I don't think it's a for sure thing at this point. All right, let's get into it here, Dave. I want to thank Football Guys Roto World and Rob for tonight's rundown. Odell Beckham Jr. actually had a down 2019 season, and part of the reason was he had a core muscle injury. But remember, 59.7% of his targets were deemed catchable. This is according to Pro Football Focus. His first 5 years of the Giants, that percentage was almost 65%. You think about Baker Mayfield being under pressure last year, Dave. They've shored up that offensive line both in the draft and free agency. Beckham, are you betting on a bounce back? And before, I know we've talked about this in the past, Odell Beckham, this is like the latest I've seen him go. 308 in Football Guys drafts right now. He is the wide receiver 9.
That's it? 9?
Yeah, wide receiver 9.
I'm still passing hardcore. Just like I was last week when you asked a similar question.
I don't think did we talk about this last week? I thought we talked about it like a month ago.
Whatever. I'm OD beat out. Next time you have an Odell Beckham thing come up, clip it and cut it and throw it in the trash.
Okay, sounds good. Can we do a Would You Rather then? The final Odell Beckham Would You Rather of the season?
Then we're going to retire Odell Beckham until July.
That's fine. Okay, so we're still bringing it back in July?
No, but not until – I don't care. Not until July.
Okay. So remember we used to talk about the Browns all the time on this show, and you get so annoyed?
But that's when they were even worse. Now at least they're kind of crappy.
All right, I'm going to go for a little bit further down the list here. Odell Beckham. Would you rather have Odell Beckham or Allen Robinson? And these are all redraft like Football Guys leagues.
I'll take Robinson.
Odell Beckham or Juju Smith-Schuster, another guy who's trying to bounce back.
I'll take Juju.
Odell Beckham or A.J. Brown?
I'll take Beckham.
Odell Beckham, last one, or Adam Thielen?
Thielen, actually.
Really?
I like Thielen a lot. With all those targets that are gone, I feel like he's having a really good year.
Yeah, so you're betting on Justin Jefferson maybe catching like 50 balls this year and Thielen just being a total target monster?
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, or Irv Smith or whoever, Kyle Rudolph. Who else is there at receiver other than Jefferson? I'm trying.
Well, let's see. They have. Stephon Diggs is gone. I'm going to bring up the depth.
They know those junky.
They're not good. I'll tell you that right now. There's nobody to write home about. Okay, I got it right here. So the Vikings, besides Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, have Tajay Sharp, Olabisi Johnson. Remember, he was a big waiver pickup that 1 week last year.
Oh, yeah.
Chad Beebe, Dylan Mitchell, Alexander Hollins, Davian Davis, Courtney Davis, and Dan Chisena.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah, I'm good with Thielen. I'll take Thielen.
Where's
Thielen going, like the 5th, 6th?
He's going way late. His ADP right now in Football Guys drafts, again, over the last week. I want to give a shout-out to Darren Armani, FantasyMojo.com. This is where we get all that ADP from that we bring to you on this show. Adam Thielen is at the 408 as wide receiver 16.
Okay. And Beckham's in the 30.
308, wide receiver 9.
That's like a full round. And if it was an auction and they were both going for $10 at the exact same time, I would take Beckham just because I feel the ADP value is, I feel like the crowd, the wisdom of the crowds tells me to take Beckham. But in a real draft, I would probably, I know I would take Thielen in the same spot.
All right, so Adam Thielen has dealt with some injuries. I'm going to set you the 79.5 as far as his total catches this year. Taking the over? Okay. Sure. One other thing I came across, you remember in 2018, Dave, Adam Thielen started off the season with that incredible 100-yard streak. He got over 100 yards in like 10 straight games. Since then, he's had one 100-yard game in like a year and a half.
Well,
pretty crazy.
That's not so good.
It is not so good, but I think I'm with you on a big season from him. All right, let's move on. This is kind of an interesting one because we both talked about how we think Todd Gurley is a nice value. Dirk Ketter said that, who's the new Falcons OC, said that Gurley played in a similar offensive system with the Rams and likes that because of, again, no offseason. With a similar terminology and a concept base, Gurley could be get going right away. Now, the thing that Ketter brought up, the main question, quote, the main question that no one seems to know is, what's his health status? What's his workload? D. Orlando Ledbetter had that report in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Dave, I don't know if you know this. Todd Gurley still has not taken a physical with the Falcons. The deal is pending a physical, knowing that his own offensive coordinator doesn't know what kind of workload he's going to handle. Is he still worth the risk at his current ADP and I believe the third round, 302 right now as running back 15? And I thought he had taken a physical.
See, I saw excuse me, I saw an article where he was going later, but 302 seems like, is that where he goes?
This is just over the last 7 days in Football Guys draft, so he might. I'm sure he has gone later in some other best balls or what have you.
I feel like Ketter is like a running back hater. He hated Ronald Jones. He talked him down right away. Now, granted, he wasn't incorrect. He was correct.
Right.
But he's just, he gets fired. He just seems like a negative person. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that. Maybe I'm a negative person. I feel like I'm a more positive person than Dirk Ketter, though. I like Gurley. If he passes the physical, I'm good taking him. I would take him now. I'm fine.
Okay. Wasn't Ketter the guy who wore those spectacles on the sidelines when he was coaching Jameis Winston?
You always have a visor on, too, or is that somebody else?
I think he had a hat. No, he might have had a visor now that I think about it.
He's a visor guy?
I feel like...
You look at those visor guys who always have reading glasses on there to the tip of their nose, and you want to just punch their nose and fracture the nose and the glasses all at once. It's like, put the glasses on.
Right. And maybe that's why Winston suffered. Maybe he was a Winston hater, too.
Yeah. I mean, Winston, he's the one who actually needed the LASIK, and he finally got it. Now he's working back up. Anyway.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about this from the Chicago Tribune. Anthony Miller believes 2020 is going to be, quote, my best year yet. Now, Anthony Miller is still recovering from shoulder surgery, and this is not his first one. He got hurt in Week 17 last year on a kickoff when he was playing special teams. So this is a 7-month rehab that he's gone under and certainly frustrated by that. He has been studying Stephon Diggs, Isaac Bruce, and Steve Smith's game tape, trying to pattern his game after them. Miller is obviously going to be the number 2 wideout after Allen Robinson for Chicago. And in the final 6 weeks, not including that Week 17 game, Dave, he averaged 5.7 catches and 72 yards a game. I didn't realize that, and I feel like he's being a little bit undervalued. Now, I know Matt Nagy's offense, they spread it around a little bit, but Nick Foles, I think, is a more competent quarterback than Mitchell Trubisky, and my money is on Foles starting right away in Week 1, throwing it to Anthony Miller, among others. Currently going as wide receiver 54 in the 13th round. That is a nice little value there, in my opinion.
This whole little argument you're making was actually pretty compelling. And it's really good to hear. I've never been an Anthony Miller fan, just in general, of his talent. But, a lot of the stuff he's saying is very true. He's really got a real positive attitude about it. Recovering from all these injuries, which he's had a lot. And, he hasn't really had he's had these smaller opportunities to succeed, and he showed, like he showed late in the year that he can actually do something. In the 13th round, Wide receiver 54. I'm on board with Anthony Miller. I like that.
Yeah.
Actually, I like that quite a bit.
You think about who has the potential to break out in that offense, too.
Yeah, the tight ends are so terrible, too. There's a lot of...
Well, they got Komet, who's a rookie.
Yeah,
he's
garbage.
It seems like they've given up on Shaheen. Jimmy Graham, the corpse of Jimmy Graham, we already saw him the last 3 years.
350 and 3 touchdowns.
Tariq Cohen, to me, is just...
He'll get some targets.
Yeah, he'll get a few. He dropped, by the way, 8 passes in 50 targets last year. Pretty bad. And then Montgomery, I think, is the other guy who could break out this year. But as far as a wide receiver standpoint, I think we saw a little bit of a mini breakout from Anthony Miller last year. Could continue.
That's why I love Allen Robinson. I mean, that guy, he scrapes up 12 targets almost every game. I mean, he's always open, too. I mean,
who gets more catches this year, him or Thielen?
I like Robinson. I like Robinson a lot.
Because he's actually going right behind Beckham, and then Thielen obviously around later. So might have to talk trade in Dynasty about Allen Robinson.
You have him?
I have Robinson. I don't have Thielen.
Yeah, all right.
So I'm sure Tupacker has Thielen somewhere that he'd be willing to deal with. Okay, we have our guest coming up in just a minute here, Cal Zarin, the 1250 Dynasty League number 10 champion. Last thing I want to get to, Kimberly Jones tweeted this out, beat reporter for the Giants. Joe Judge, the new New York Giants head coach, said the offense that they're going to be using this year is going to be similarly based off of what new offensive coordinator Jason Garrett ran in Dallas. And I got this from Roto World. What I love about this is Roto World's little snarky response. That is potentially bad news for the Giants offense. Kellen Moore, remember, was the guy who really took that offense to new levels in Dallas. And it was a slow pace. It was very run-heavy under Jason Garrett. Now, you have Barkley, Engram, Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton. They've all had big games in the past for the New York Giants. Daniel Jones seemed like he's on the come up here, Dave. Are you nervous about draft? I mean, obviously you're not nervous about Barkley, but any of those other guys, are you nervous about drafting this year based on this report if the Giants' offense is patterned after the Cowboys' Jason Garrett-led offenses?
Well, it's a good point, actually. If you don't want a slow-paced offense. I've been reading about the Chargers having a slow-paced offense because they have a good defense, and if they have Tyrod Taylor. Not that I want to talk about the Chargers, but I mean, if that's similar, it's not great. And you look at the talent, Shepard, Slayton, and I think out of the receivers, I think Golden Tate's probably the most talented, and he's probably going to be, maybe the least targeted. So you're splitting all those passes amongst the 4 if you have Engram in there too. For me, it's a little challenging to pick a winner in the mix. Like who do you pick if they're not going to throw it that often and they're
right?
It's in a situation you could avoid completely if you want to.
The good part about it, I guess, is you don't have to really pay a premium for any of these guys. Sterling Shepard is a 10th round pick. Darius Slayton is a 12th round. Darius Slayton is a 10th round pick. Sterling Shepard is a 12th round pick. Golden Tate not going off the board until the 15th round. I mean, you want to take them at that point, I don't care. I think the real question is what do you do with Evan Engram, who's the 6th tight end off the board, going in the middle of the 6th round.
Coming off injury. Well, and you think about it, philosophically, it actually makes sense where you have a second-year quarterback, a superstar running back, and your team is not that great. It's an 8-8 team in an 8-8 division where everybody's always 8-8, right? So why doesn't it just make you play your cards close to the vest, you run the ball a lot, don't throw a ton with your second-year quarterback, and hope your defense wins some games for you? It makes a lot of sense. It sucks for fantasy. Actually, it's good for fantasy if you don't take any Giants.
Yeah.
So.
And the great thing, Barkley's going to catch a bunch of passes, and even if it is slow pace, Dave, he's going to be the beneficiary of that because they're going to be pounding the rock to him as long as they can afford to.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, let's get to tonight's guest, ladies and gentlemen. He's been playing high-stakes fantasy football for a half-decade now, only FFPC dynasties. He says he likes it more than the redraft tournaments, but does love everything the FFPC does with this format. As of this year, he now has 4 teams that usually have a pretty common trajectory in Dynasty. They start off average, they bottom out, and then they start to get their legs under them and get competitive. He trades a ton, which helped him become the 2019 FFPC 1250 Dynasty League number 10 champ. Please welcome onto the show Cal Zarin. Cal, thanks so much for joining us this week.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
We will get to fantasy football here shortly, but before we do that, can you tell the listeners what you're doing for a living when you are not trading and drafting all these teams in your rookie drafts?
Sure. So I run a small marketing agency in New York City. We work with government agencies to do different social programs. So yeah, that's what we do.
Cal, who's your team that you follow? Are you a fan of any of the NFL teams out there, Giants, Jets, or are you just all fantasy all the way?
Yeah, I used to be a Dolphin fan, but that became real tough for a while. And now, I follow the New York team some, but I'm mostly fantasy.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, so living in New York, have you been staying at home, or have you left the city, or what's your kind of plan with the COVID-19 thing?
Yeah, so we left the city. Our office is in Manhattan, but we work remote a lot. So everyone's kind of spread out now, working from home. But it's worked out. It's worked out fine. We've been okay.
All right,
good.
That's great to hear.
Good to hear.
All right, let's talk some fantasy, and you're ruining our renewal rate apparently in this league because you have Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley on the same team in 1250 number 10. Luckily, we didn't get like 6 or 7 people that left the league or anything like that.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, I just got bad at the right time, I think. So I got Barkley in the draft off my own pick, and then I traded. Who did I trade? I traded Mixon and Robinson to get McCaffrey. So I ponied up. It wasn't cheap, but yeah, I think having good core, especially with those two guys, I feel good with it.
Dave, we just got done talking about how we both like Allen Robinson. You'd still rather have the McCaffrey side in that deal, though, right? You give up Mixon and Allen Robinson to get CMC?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I would too.
I gave up as I always talk about this, Ezekiel Elliott and Keenan Allen to two-packer for McCaffrey last year.
And I think he's since traded Elliott, too.
He's the one who offered it to me, I think. Probably he was drunk and then I was drunk and accepted, so it worked out perfectly.
That's genius, though, Cal, to get both those guys on your team. That's awesome, and certainly helped propel you to victory. But this championship didn't necessarily look like it was going to happen for you about halfway through the season last year. What can you tell us about the approach that you took to try and go for the title?
Yeah, so like halfway through last year, I think I may have been in last place. Barkley was hurt, and my team was decent, but, Geis got hurt too. He was my third running back, so I was just kind of throwing running backs out there. And then I had a choice like halfway through the season. The way I usually do it is, halfway through I'll decide I'm either all in or all out. And if I'm all out, I'll trade a lot and really try to go after guys on IR and things like that. But the off season before that, I had acquired a bunch of seconds thinking that I'd go for a run and thinking that if I was in contention, I'd start trading them, to pick up some like short-term guys like, Mohamed Sanu, John Brown, people like that. So I had a decision to make halfway through, and I said, look, this team, if it gets going, I think it could win. So I went all in. I traded most of those second rounders. I probably made 3 or 4 really big trades right in the middle of the year. And then everyone started to get going. And I think I won most of my last games.
What happened? I didn't look at the playoffs in your league, Cal. Was it close those last couple of weeks, or did you run away with this in the playoffs?
No, in the playoffs, I don't remember in the first playoff, but in the second playoff, I think I won by like 100 points. I won by a lot.
Now there you go. Good for you. That's awesome. That's good to hear.
Thanks.
Dave, you have a question about a rookie running back, and I actually have a follow-up point I want to make after Cal answers this question.
All righty, so we're going to talk about A.J. Dillon, now of the Green Bay Packers. You took him in your rookie draft last month. You also grabbed him in a few other leagues. Was he a player you were targeting in all your Dynasty rookie drafts?
Yeah, I'm all in on A.J. Dillon. The draft position's a big deal. So, I was looking at second rounders. If you look at second round running backs since like 2015, there isn't one second round running back that's gone in the second round ADP. It's like Miles Sanders, Nick Chubb, Ronald Jones, Kerryon Johnson, Geis, Cook, Mixon, Henry. All of those guys were first rounders ADP. So, I think a GM says a lot when he picks a guy in the second round. He's saying, he's kind of making a statement, I think. And when you look at Aaron Jones, he's really good, but, he's a fifth-round pick, contract year next year. And so it seemed like the GM saying, all right, well, at least he's a part of our future. And then, I look back more on A.J. Dillon, who I was starting to like coming off the combine, and usually like there's a story or something. You find something and you're like, oh, wow, that seems like it's like indicative of the player. And I read about A.J. Dillon's first game when he wasn't a starter, and he played against Louisville. And and that was when they had Lamar Jackson. And that was his first game. He wasn't even starting going into that game. Ran for like 257 yards, 4 touchdowns. They never gave the running back job back to the other guy. And then they built the entire offense around him for the next 4 years. So I don't know. He just seems like checks a lot of the boxes.
So Cal, the point I wanted to make is, and I forgot about this when you and I were exchanging emails. You had asked my opinion on A.J. Dillon. Dave and I live here in Northeast Wisconsin, and I am a Packers fan. And initially, I didn't like the Jordan Love pick. Obviously, I was hoping for a receiver there in the first round, and then you compound it with Dillon in the second round. But you kind of peel back the layers here, and you already talked a little bit about it. This is a franchise that seems to want to switch to a power running game. They obviously use the 2 straight years. They use a third-round pick on a tight end that can both block and catch. We know LaFleur's offense likes to utilize the tight end. But as far as Dillon goes, I just look at this from the standpoint, his metrics were eerily similar to Derrick Henry's metrics from the combine. He had the second best speed score of anybody in the draft this year, and Aaron Jones, 2 out of the last 3 years, ended the year on IR with a knee injury.
Yeah.
And not only that, with the beat writers I follow here with the Packers, they seem to think that Aaron Jones at best is number 3 in line for a contract extension behind Kenny Clark and behind David Bakhtiari. And if you remember the big spending spree the Packers went on last year on defense, they don't really have a ton of funds to be throwing around. So I think the Dillon thing just kind of cemented it that, look, we're going to go for broke with Jones and Dillon this year, but this is Dillon's backfield going forward. So I really like him. And, of course, I take that back. I've only done 1 rookie draft so far, and I didn't get him. But hopefully I get him in a couple of them that I have coming up here. I like him quite a bit, too. Dave, you're not as bullish on Dillon, I think, if I remember correctly.
I'm not been in a position really to draft him. I do like his skill set. I think, but the one thing I fear is that he's just more of a 2-down back. He's not going to catch passes. So, but I agree with all those points about Aaron Jones long term. When you're a 5th-round pick, even if you're outperformed it with all those touchdowns, the team it's kind of hard to get out of that position. I just feel like.
And the other thing too to keep in mind, and I should have brought that up too with the pass catching. It's pretty rare for a running back in the NFL to be a difference maker in fantasy, a real big time mover and shaker without catching passes. Derrick Henry's been able to do it, but are we talking about another Derrick Henry here? I'm not so sure.
Well, he had 200. He was having 250-yard games with 2 and 3 touchdowns, and that's what.
Right.
But it's not impossible. Dillon's a huge dude, fast. So. And
it's not. And I was listening actually to the Boston College running backs coach being interviewed, and he said, "Look, we didn't throw to him a lot at BC. That doesn't necessarily mean he can't catch the ball. I've seen him catch the ball, too. So we'll see what happens with that." Cal Zarin is our guest, the 1250 FFPC Dynasty League number 10 champion. Cal, this is a contract year, speaking of contract years, for Cooper Kupp as well. And then the Rams end up using a second-round pick on Van Jefferson, the polished route runner out of the University of Florida. You think Van Jefferson is the Cooper Kupp replacement for the Rams in 2021, or is that too big of a conclusion to jump to right now?
Yeah, I don't know. I like Kupp, and it seems like Goff really likes Kupp. He just kind of you watch those games, and he just seems to find them, and even when Robert Woods having a good game or when Cooks was having good games, he always kind of keyed in on Kupp. So I think they're going to keep Kupp. I think McVay will appreciate that those two kind of work well together. Woods, they have an out on Woods next year too. At I think it'll cost, let's say $9.5 million, something like that. I really like Van Jefferson. I think you listen to some of the things from the Senior Bowl. He's one of those weird guys where his production doesn't back it up, but he's fast. So the Senior Bowl they clocked him as the fastest wide receiver, faster than Mims, who ran I think it was a 4.39, something like that. And like you said, his route running is really good. So and they pick him in the second round. So I think they're gonna find a spot for Van Jefferson next year. But I don't know. I think Kupp or Woods could be the one out.
I mean, from my personal experience in my dynasty leagues I've done this year, I've gotten Van Jefferson in 2 leagues. I got him at the 310 and the 406. I'm super happy to get a player that got picked 57th overall to get him at pick 34 and in the mid 40s. It's just like free. The people are taking like Cole Kmet. They're taking Justin Jackson or Phillip Rivers. Crappy picks. It's fine. Go ahead and take those guys.
Man.
But I mean, a player like Jefferson, or I've been calling him Van Morrison, he has potential to be like top 36, top 24 wide receiver, and reasonable potential as a second rounder. I just love that. I love that value.
Yeah, Cal, let me answer that. Dave mentioned the 406. That was his FFPC rookie draft ADP this year. Why were so many people, I guess, soured on Van Jefferson, given that the Rams, put a premium pick into selecting this guy?
I mean, I think a lot of the rookie ADP, or just the way people approach rookie ADP, it's so much groupthink. It's like Van Jefferson, I think he's good, but I felt like he really proved himself at the Senior Bowl. And if you look at his stats and you look at some of those breakout metrics and things like that, he doesn't qualify for any of them, and he's old. So I think people look at that and they were backed off him, and nobody's really talking about him until he got drafted in the second round. But I totally agree with what you guys are saying. There are a few people that really stand out to me as far as why they're getting drafted so late, and for whatever reason, his name's just not in that next tier of the Jefferson, Mims, all the way to Laviska Shenault. He's just not in that tier for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think it's great because those receivers that got drafted in the NFL in similar spots are getting drafted around the first round, the second round turn sometimes. And if they fall, to the late second, like your Chase Claypools, Devin Duvernay's, you go in the mid-third, early third. I think it's great value. In fact, Cooper Kupp, interestingly enough, he was another player that went in the third round of rookie draft.
Yeah.
He was falling all over the place because, again, he was overaged.
Small school. Yeah, people, for whatever reason, they couldn't they couldn't get a good feel on him, or they just didn't think he was going to make it. Plus, he's a honky. I mean, you can't have a white wide receiver, for God's sake, and be successful. That's not going to work. And now the 101 is a white running back this year in redraft. It's
unbelievable.
Crazy. I wonder if we're going to talk about Dobbins here in a second. I wonder if Van Jefferson, people get to the mid-fourth and they're like, I don't want to double off the wall here. I don't want a polished route runner guy who maybe is a little bit older. I want a home run pick, and Van Jefferson is a home run pick.
Let me take Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying I'm not saying that's a good pick either. I'm just trying to get in the minds of them.
Take the Chargers defense.
Yeah. Well, anyway, somebody who could be a home run rookie pick.
Home run pick. J.K. Dobbins. Is there any chance he surpasses Mark Ingram, which he could be turning into Frank Gore Parte Deux, as the lead Ravens back before the end of the season?
I think you nailed it. I think Mark Ingram's just one of those pros pro. So I don't think he goes away. And Dobbins good, and I think they like him. So I think earlier rather than later they go to a split, and Dobbins gets his carries. But I don't think Ingram's going away this year, and I really don't think he's going away next year either. I think there's a good chance Ingram comes back next year, and they go with the with a two-hand approach.
I can see that.
I just saw a good friend of the show, Lance Turvis, and then the mascot of the show, Two-Packer, in a private dynasty league rookie draft that we have kicking off tomorrow. They just made a trade, and I was going to talk about it on the show. It's too big of a blockbuster. I don't want to get into it. It was massive though. A lot of first round picks. Todd Gurley was involved. It was fun.
Wonderful.
All right, Cal, let's talk about a vet that you are looking to trade after seeing what his team did in the NFL draft at the end of last month. A guy who maybe necessarily didn't get his value killed, but you could see his value being depreciated. Is there anybody that you're looking to get rid of and maybe take 80 or 85 cents on the dollar right now?
Yeah, I don't have any of these guys, but guys like Aaron Jones, Cortland Sutton, I actually pretty down on Sutton. I don't hear him being talked about too much as a guy that took a big hit, but I think Judy's really good. I think Judy and Hamler are gonna cut into his his numbers, his targets, Gallup, guys like that. But I kind of go the other way. I try to sell the guys that didn't get hit, that everyone kind of expected to get pulled down. So guys like James Conner, Sonny Mitchell, even like Todd Gurley. I think a lot of people expected them to at least be challenged with higher pedigree guys. And if you get past the rookie draft and they look unchallenged, I feel like they get a quick spike where people kind of, I say that. Meanwhile, I can't trade Gurley. I've had a really tough time trading Gurley. But, I think people forget for a second and say, especially like with the Roto-World blurb today on Connor, I think now's the time you really want to jump on those guys. Get rid of them.
So curiously, I have Aaron Jones in a couple of leagues, so I'm going to ask your advice. So if I wanted to deal Aaron Jones, what would be the price that you'd sell him for? Like a random 2021 first, or is that giving him away for too cheap?
So I saw somebody post about this. They said that, and it was with A.J. Dillon. They said, I had Aaron Jones and I traded for A.J. Dillon. And I feel like if you find the A.J. Dillon owner, I'm not a big Aaron Jones fan, but I feel like a lot of A.J. Dillon owners would really like to double up and get Aaron Jones because it gives them production year one. And then when Aaron Jones potentially goes to another team next year, they get two potential starting running backs. But I don't know. I would say like first and second, maybe.
Sure.
Do you think it's still worth that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm just wondering. I guess you have to have someone else that's willing to, to do that. But
right.
If you're just doing it, I'm just speaking in the terms of rookie picks. Are we maybe this? Yeah, I'm thinking of actually next year. Anyway, that's a good answer.
Well, I look at
it. 2020, this year's rookie, like maybe the 106, like 106 and 206.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fair.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and you look at it, you talk about trying to find a trade partner. Well, there's probably people out there that are doubting whether Dillon is going to be this huge standalone guy in the future because of the pass catching aspect, and maybe they just believe that Jones and Dillon are going to be the 1-2 punch given what the Packers did in the draft this year. That could that could happen. It's not without there's non-zero chance of that happening. So I think that would work out as well. Okay, so talking about rookie drafts, we often forget that there's some veterans in these drafts as well. The rookie/free agent draft. Two of the tight ends that were in a lot of the FFPC rookie drafts this year, Cal, were Hayden Hurst and Rob Gronkowski. Where were you looking at selecting them in those rookie drafts? And are you high on either one of these guys for Dynasty?
Yeah, so I was trying really hard to get into the early second for Dillon and those two guys in every draft I could. Like I said, I like Dillon, but Gronk, I keep thinking back to Gronk, like it's Gronk and Brady. It's like, how do you not go after Gronk, a healthy Gronk paired with Brady with their like last stand? Like that is, that seems pretty juicy to me. So, I want to at least be a part. I'd like to be on that ride. And then with Hurst, he looked good. His first round pick. I think wasn't he Ozzie Newsome's last year. I mean, in Ozzie I trust. So, Ozzie picked him in the first round. He's looked really good every chance he got. Atlanta traded a second rounder for him. He's replacing Hooper, which a lot of people kind of like question his talent. And, he was number one tight end for the first half last year. I think there are a lot of, checks in his box too. So I'm a big believer in both those guys.
1.5 per catch too, obviously in FFPC leagues. The whole Brady Gronk thing, Dave, doesn't it strike you as like they did two movies together, like Brady and Gronk, and they're like, we're not going to do a third. And then like the money runs low or whatever, and the buzz gets up, and like, all right, we're going to do a third. Here's the last part of the trilogy.
Bad Boys 3.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly what it is. It happens a couple of years later. But in any event, trading is always one of my favorite parts of Dynasty, Dave.
Absolutely. So you're evidently you're a hyperactive trader in Dynasty, Cal. Is there a method to your madness, or are you just always trying to tinker? You wait till it's slow at work, and you're like, I got to make a trade.
Yeah, probably a little bit of all that. It's first of all, it's just fun. I like to trade, and two, I think of Dynasty like I'm not a stock guy at all, but I would imagine it's a lot like the stock market, where it's all about values. I think your core guys are guys you want to really believe in. Those are the guys you're going to build your team around. But everyone else, I feel like you're trying to just figure out, okay, he, for whatever reason, he's underperforming. He had a bad year. He's on the end of a contract. And you're just saying, look, next 6 months, he's going to go up a lot, and when he goes up, it doesn't matter if I'm banking on this guy for a long time. If I can make a profit next 6 months and get another second rounder out of him and get somebody at equivalent value, then it's a good trade, if I can still be competitive. So I just like that part of it. I like the part of like the values, kind of, the sell high, buy low. I try to run my team that way.
And you call yourself not a stock guy. Nice job. You nailed it right on the head there, Cal. You probably answered part of the next question, but I mean, is that the biggest reason that you like dynasty leagues over redraft leagues? Is because of the trading aspect?
Yeah, I'm not into the redraft leagues anymore. It's I really like the idea of like the long-term thinking. I really like trading draft picks and kind of the element that introduces into it. So yeah, I just prefer dynasty. I like thinking about the long-term part of it.
Well, the nice thing about redraft is a lot of these teams I drafted last year, I just flushed them all down the toilet, and it's a new year for me, so I'm so happy.
I always joke on the show, like, I'm always looking forward to, like, week 6. I'm like, okay, I got to get my dynasty ducks lined up here for the following year because all my teams are crap at that point. All right, one final question
if you
for
think
Cal.
about the way you introduced me, I was just going to say, if you think about the way you introduced me, it's like the same thing, right? Like I start average, I tank, and then I start being competitive. So that doesn't lend itself too well for like a redraft league,
There's one, yeah, that is true. There's one dynasty league that I'm in. It's the one we talk about on the show all the time. How many years have we been doing it? 7? Carrington? 7 years of dynasty in that league?
Longer, but is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have been I'm not going to go into it.
How's your playoff record?
I've never won a playoff game, but I've been the leading scorer in this league 3 times, and I have nothing to show for it. And but I feel like this is my year. After this rookie draft that I had, I'm very excited for it.
Your team is getting disgustingly good, actually. I don't like looking at other teams in the league and like them better than mine.
I think it might be top 8 in the league now, top 2/3 of the league.
Whatever.
Dave, final question for Cal before we let him go.
All right, how are you going to spend all that money? The $500. Oh wait, this is the wrong question.
Right, wrong question.
Damn it. Yeah. All right, Cal. Sorry about the $500,000 you didn't win. Who's a player that you're avoiding in rookie drafts this year, or that you did avoid in rookie drafts this year? And a sleepover you try to scoop up later? What is a sleeper? What the hell is a sleepover?
It's not a sleepover, yeah. I'm always trying to avoid sleepovers, yeah.
And a sleepover you had recently. Okay, and a sleeper you were trying to scoop up later on.
Yeah. So I am like totally out in Keyshawn Vaughn. I feel like there's a Keyshawn Vaughn in every draft. A guy that, is kind of like a fringe guy that gets put on the right team and everyone takes him. So I definitely don't like Vaughn. And then I'm kind of, I kind of am fading every wide receiver after Rager. I think for me, Rager's the third, after Judy and Lamb. But all those other ones, I think they're good. There are a lot I really like. But like you were saying before, I feel like I'd rather kind of pass on all of them all the way to Ayuk, however you pronounce that. I like him. I see him at like 2.9, 2.8, 2.9 in some drafts, and that feels like really good value for him. And then, like you said, Van Jefferson, Antonio Gibson, kind of guys like that. So I'm kind of fading that whole cluster of wide receivers. And then for sleepers, like you had said before, I really like Van Jefferson. Then the other guys like that I don't get why he's fading is, Lynn Bowden. He feels, Antonio Gibson's getting so much hype. Bowden feels like the exact same player. It's like, here's a guy that goes, I think, 14 picks later than Bowden. He's very similar, in that he's this kind of hybrid guy. He's an athlete. He's, his like status or his like role on the team is pretty unclear. I think that's very similar to Gibson. So I feel like 2 rounds later after Gibson, you can get Bowden. That feels like good value to me.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. The other thing with Gibson, I don't know if it's just because I'm so sick of people talking about him, talking him up so much. He just strikes me as like one of those Washington Redskin players that gets super hyped up and then just never lives up to it. And it's just like a huge disappointment.
Like all of them.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's like a fantasy wasteland there all the time.
Yeah, I mean, Geis he had the knee injury, obviously. That obviously hurt him. But, I mean, like, Bryce Love is not doing anything there. McLaurin actually is okay, but he's a receiver.
McLaurin's like the only, yeah. But I mean, you had a lot of guys.
Josh Doxson.
Doxson was a total bust. Mm-hmm. The guy from Seattle, Richardson, was been terrible.
Yeah, Paul Richardson.
Remember Samaje Perine?
Oh, Perine,
you want to shoot yourself if you're going Perine for a year. The guy was terrible. He had like 10 yards.
And now he's out of football. I think.
Yeah, and Jordan Reed
was good in his heyday, but think about all those years where
he's just sitting there clogging your roster because he's like, oh, is he coming back? And it's like week 9 and he's still sitting there.
Yeah. Well, listen,
the Redskins are the worst.
They are the worst.
I had to close this on a good note.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you who the best is, and that's Cal Zarin, the FFPC 1250 number 10 Dynasty League champ from this past season. Cal, thanks so much for popping on with us tonight, talking a little Dynasty. Really appreciate it, dude. Good luck defending the belt in that league. Good luck in all of your Dynasty leagues this year, and we'll talk again soon, dude.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, guys. Had fun.
Thanks, you. We did too, definitely. Stay safe, my friend. Cal Zarin, 2019 FFPC 1250 number 10 Dynasty League champ. Pretty incredible story, Dave, where, halfway through we hear this all the time. You got to figure out if you're going to go all in or all out. And despite his record, despite being in last place 6 weeks into the season, 7 weeks into the season, it's like, look, I got McCaffrey, I got Barkley, I can make a run. He loads up, and sure enough, he makes the run, wins the title. It's something to behold. Always appreciate when something like that happens.
Yeah, that was great. Really enjoyed it.
All right.
Plus, really, he had a great voice. He could be a radio. He has good radio.
Oh, yeah.
Voice.
Fantastic.
And then his audio came through nicely, too. So I always like when I can hear people.
I knew it would. I mean, he's a marketing guy on the East Coast, so you knew that he would have like a good, clean audio setup because I'm sure he's been doing a lot of Zoom meetings and what have you.
Plus, no stupid Wisconsin accent, which is nice.
Oh, God. I cannot listen to...
He sounded normal, like a normal person on TV and stuff.
I have these friends that I talk to from time to time that don't live in the area anymore, and they listen to my podcast, and I'm like, does it come through? Like, because I'm trying to go out of my way.
He's like, yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah, totally, it's terrible. I'm like, son of a gun. Okay, I don't want to go through the trade that Lance and Two-Packer just did.
Why are you bringing it up twice then? Why are you
Because I'm bringing up a trade offer I just got. Because it's clean. Who would you rather have, Curtis Samuel or this year's 211?
211.
I agree. And that is what my answer is to you, Two-Packer. All right, so moving on. Let's get to some emails here.
Would you rather have Curtis Samuel or the 303?
This is nice. Two-Packer being exposed tonight. All right, let's kick off emails tonight with Jim in Bakersfield, California. Now that Football Guys drafts are in full swing, I decided to jump in one this weekend. How many players at each position do you guys think I should look at? Wish me luck. That is Jim in Bakersfield, California. So this isn't necessarily an ordered roster construction question, Dave, but when you're drafting a Football Guys team in, mid-May here, what do you like to do? One kicker, one quarterback, one defense, couple of tight ends, 3 tight ends? How would you sort of organize this? I guess my biggest question is, what do you do with the non-sexy positions here?
Football Guys, I would go 1 kicker, 1 defense, 2 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, 6 running backs, and 7 receivers on average.
Okay.
Now, sometimes I would possibly take 7 backs and 6 receivers if I had really good receivers, but generally that's kind of where I'd be.
If you took Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, would you still draft a backup?
Probably, but I wouldn't feel like I really totally had to.
Because you had the waiver wire one prior to week 1.
Yeah, but I do feel like there's some good value backups out there that I wouldn't mind just having. Because if it's the 12th or 13th round, maybe Anthony Miller is there, right? So that's a position or player you could take. But maybe there's a quarterback. Maybe you like Brady, you like the Gronk connection, or maybe it's the 16th round, you like Bridgewater or something like that, and you're like, maybe you should take him there. So yeah. I feel like getting a backup quarterback does kind of matter.
I am with you on the kicker and defense. For tight end premium leagues, I think 3 tight ends is definitely a good idea, even when you're not talking. Actually, in best ball, I'd probably go 4 tight ends in tight end premium.
We're talking Football Guys.
This is Football Guys, yeah. Quarterback, I think I still might just do 1 there. And by the way, listen, I've talked about.
You never take your quarterbacks early, though.
Right, and so I would draft Matthew Stafford in the 12th, and then just, all right, I'm all set. I'm going to, take these stone running backs that will probably never pan out, but that's probably the way I would approach it. Dave has won more leagues than me, so Jim in Bakersfield, you know who to give priority over.
Well, the thing is, quarterbacks, I'm not trying to argue with you, quarterbacks do get hurt, and, like the 7th and 8th running backs, how often do they pan out? Every once in a while, I guess.
Yeah. What happens more? Quarterbacks get hurt. So there you go.
Yeah.
Wasp Guy, we're going to answer his question in the chat room. He wants to know how much is Singletary hurt by Zach Moss in 2020 and beyond. So kind of a dynasty question, Dave. I don't know if you were all that excited about Zach Moss. I didn't think he was all that special of a player. I still don't think he's all that special of a player. But I think that where the Bills took him in the draft, to me it signals like, okay, well, we want to keep Singletary healthy. We're going to give Moss will be a big part of our offense here right away this year. And it probably takes a little bit of the shine away from Singletary after they decided not to re-sign Gore.
Yeah, I mean, to me, they really felt, when you look at Moss, he has a similar body type to Gore from what I can tell, like a, big, thickly built, low to the ground type back, whereas Singletary is, a little bit more not that he's a third down back, but he's just not quite the grinder that those two guys are. They feel like that's kind of the role that Zach Moss is going to play, in my opinion. So I don't think that the people that thought Singletary was going to just run away with it and be the 3-down superstar back, he's not. Like I've said a zillion times, he's not that talented of a back. He's not a superstar, getting picked in the top 10 picks, McCaffrey, Barkley type player. There's only a few of them in the league. So him having competition with Moss makes sense. I think it's going to affect him negatively. I mean, I would have no problem trading away Singletary if I owned him. And I actually don't mind Moss. I like Moss.
FFP.
I screwed up and I didn't draft him in a dynasty draft. I'm still kicking myself.
Really?
A little
like
bit.
You, where were you targeting him in the rookie draft? Moss.
I wasn't targeting him. I took a different player when he was there, and he fell below his ADP.
Oh yeah, I know what you're. Yeah, sorry, I know what you're talking about now.
It's fine.
FFPC Dynasty startup ADP. Singletary is going as the running back 22 at the end of the 4th round. Zach Moss is not going until the end of the 8th round as running back 33. I think that makes sense. Devin Singletary is probably like a top 20, top 25 running back this season. Zach Moss probably top 35, and that's Dynasty, by the way, too.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if I was in a startup draft, I would absolutely not draft Devin Singletary. I would take a wide receiver in that spot.
Okay.
A young, good wide receiver that's going to last.
Right.
I mean, why take a guy who could get marginalized as soon as week 4? I mean, it's possible, right? I don't think it's likely, but as soon as week 4 and as late as 2021. So.
Okay. All right, moving on. Dennis in Cicero, Illinois. What's the success rate of starting tight end in your drafts? That is Dennis. Thank you for the email. In Cicero, Illinois. We've seen it happen a lot, Dave. We've seen it done in Pros versus Joes before. We've seen it done in Genesis, Revelations, Apocalypse. This is probably a bit better question for Darren Armani. In fact, I should tweet it out to him to see what he has to say. But I don't really remember many, if any, champions where we bring on the show where they started off their draft tight end. Now you're getting 2 of the elite tight ends. This year it'd probably be Kelsey, Kittle. Years past it's been Gronk and Kelsey. We've seen Gronk and Ertz, drafted back to back or with their first 2 picks. I would venture a guess to say it is not that desirable to do that if you're trying to win your league.
Yeah, so the question was
starting tight end.
Round 1 and 2?
Round 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think people have more success if they go rounds, 2 tight ends in the first 4 rounds. I've seen that work more frequently. 1 and 2, you have to hit on both. And, like Ertz, for example, he underperformed his position last year. And Gronk recently has been underperforming when he was still in the NFL and now he's back. But when he was a first-round pick, he busted a few times. So your team is already half ruined, if you're taking guys that bust. So yeah, I would avoid it. I like looking in other directions.
I don't have anything to back this up, but especially when we do these team reviews and when we cover these drafts live, I always tend to like teams that have a good second tight end that they take in, like, say, the 6th or 7th round. Like, if they get an elite guy or like a top 5 guy, but then they're also getting like another guy who's like a fringe top 12 guy in like round 7 or round 6. I always tend to like that as long as you didn't take a quarterback early.
You're not sacrificing much of the rest of your core of your roster, running back, receivers, to do that. So I agree with you.
Yeah. So I think that's more important. I would not advise. Listen, it's your team. You do what you want, but I'm not going to advise anybody to start off their draft tight end. I don't care if it's Kelsey and Kittle, the killer Ks. All right, question from John in Dedham, Mass. Dear Deuce and Brian, if you were considering drafting Miles Sanders at the back end of the first round, how much should the Carlos Hyde and LaShawn McCoy rumors affect your decision-making? Thanks, guys. That's John in Dedham, Massachusetts. Sanders – sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all right.
Miles Sanders, over the last 7 days in Football Guys drafts, Dave, is going at the 111. And I do remember seeing him go a little bit higher, and I wonder if this is the potential of Philadelphia potentially signing Carlos Hyde or reuniting with LaShawn McCoy. I wonder if that is bumping him down a little bit.
Well, the question, if I'm to answer it.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. If I was actually considering drafting Miles Sanders at the end of the first round, would those rumors affect my position on him? No, they would not if I was that person that was doing that.
Let's break this down a little bit more.
Because I think you're already a little bit the fact that you're thinking that means you must think Miles Sanders is like a superstar. Like he's an awesome player, and that somehow Philly is going to go away from what they've been doing in the past however many years, and that's using multiple backs for multiple reasons for multiple years and games and quarters and minutes and plays. So if you think that about Miles Sanders, you should still take him at the end of the first round. And he could very well be that player. I don't know. I'm guessing he's not. My opinion is that he's not, but maybe.
Well, but to no fault of his own, just because you don't think his usage, in your opinion, will be high enough to warrant that pick.
I think he's a good back. I don't think he's like this crazy superstar. I don't think that the team is oriented to do that. They were giving Boston Scott all sorts of action, and it sounds like they still plan to, even if they don't sign. Why would they sign McCoy? That makes no sense. But if they sign Hyde, that would just be another guy in the mix. But it sounds like they're near Boston Scott, plenty of action. But I mean, if someone thinks that 350 plus touches is what Sanders has coming to him, late first for sure.
All right. Well
what
said.
Do you think?
Well, I think for me, listen, I don't think here's my concern. Carlos Hyde and LaShawn McCoy are not good football players anymore. That said, if the team signs them, they are signing them to use them, which is going to take away the usage from Miles Sanders. And if you're selecting at that back end of the first round, So the guy I really like there is Nick Chubb. He was the only player, I think I saw this last year, he was the only player in the league to have at least 15 touches at least 15 weeks out of the year.
But he was matched by Kareem Hunt at the end of the last half of the year.
Right.
And Hunt is going 3 rounds, or how many rounds later? 5, 6 rounds later?
I'll check out where Kareem Hunt is right now.
They both average
604. So he's going
5 rounds later.
5 rounds later. Yeah.
And they average like 13 points a game each.
Yeah.
So how do you justify Chubb over?
Because
now it's going to go back.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, like, even when Chubb was when Hunt came back, Chubb was still touching the ball quite a bit. Like, he was still heavily involved. What was I going to say? Josh Jacobs, he's going after Miles Sanders. What concerns me about him is, it seems like Oakland does not want to have him catch the ball. Kenyon Drake, I still don't know if I can go all in on him as a, first or early second round pick. And then there's Eckler too there. I think I'd be more likely to take somebody like Tyreek Hill or Julio Jones and just skip the running back, and then maybe I go zero RB. I think a lot of people are going away from zero RB this year because we didn't have the running backs decimated in 2019 like they were in 2017 and 2018. I think there could be some value there, especially, again, if we don't have these workouts. Maybe these guys do get hurt a little bit more. I'm not sure.
Why don't you go back to your old typical strategy of grabbing one back in the first round like most people are doing and force 5 straight wide receivers?
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, FFPC, I don't
maybe
think.
4, not 5.
FFPC, it's a little bit different. I don't think I would do that in this, but in a league where you have to start 3 receivers, I love that. That's like music to my ears. Sometimes I even win a league doing it. Final email tonight is from Chris in Detroit. Who do you guys like better for Football Guys drafts this season, Chris Godwin or DeAndre Hopkins? Appreciate everything you do. That is Chris in Detroit. Chris, we appreciate every email that you send us. Dave, you can only pick one. Who are you taking? Are you drafting Hopkins or are you drafting Godwin in Football Guys drafts this year? Actually going back-to-back in the mid-second round right now.
You might have asked me this question, and I might have changed my answer. I might actually look at Hopkins, even though it's weird, because I feel like last week I might have said Godwin. It's close to me, but I'm thinking of opportunity, and I think Hopkins is going to be targeted heavily, where Godwin, there's a little bit more uncertainty with who Brady's going to be throwing to.
Okay. And then
maybe I'm wrong though. I'm totally not sure on this one.
Well, the other thing, two other things to consider. Obviously, Hopkins moving to the new team. There's always that question. And then Godwin. Well, I mean, maybe this factors in to when you're talking about two guys that are this razor thin. Chris Godwin's on bye in Week 13. DeAndre Hopkins is not. Does that factor into it?
Not for me. I don't care about that.
I mean, even when they're that close.
No.
See, for McCaffrey and Barkley, I think there's enough. Like, I'm not passing up McCaffrey because I think there's a significant amount of fantasy value between McCaffrey and Barkley. Godwin and Hopkins, I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Okay. So to me, it's like, all right, by Week 13, let's just say Godwin averages 18 or 19 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't find another receiver that averages a receiver or whatever as flex, right, like a running back, like a 12 or 13 point guy to replace Godwin with, so that's a 5 to 6 point swing. So the odds of me reaching the championship game and losing by 6 or fewer points are jack shit. So I'm not too worried about it.
All right, I get it.
There you go. There's my argument.
All right, it's a beautiful argument, and that is the way you end the show, Dave.
Yeah,
congratulations on that one.
Yeah,
hey, I want to thank Dave Gerzak, of course, Cal Zarin, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and, of course, each and every one of you. Want to wish a couple of happy birthdays tonight. Former Kentucky main event champion and FFPC player James Adams celebrating a birthday today, and my father-in-law also celebrating a birthday. Want to give a shout-out to
Happy
Mark.
birthday.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
My dad and my father-in-law both have the same first name,
wonderful.
which I think we brought this up on the show. We named our firstborn son, his middle name is Mark, and we told each of them that we named it after him.
I don't know if I ever heard that story, actually.
Yeah. So, and
we named him Mark after the second book of the New Testament.
That's what I should have said. Oh man, where are you when I need you? When I'm telling these great jokes. Okay, so we are live next Friday at 10/9 Central. 5-time Football Guys and main event league winner Andrew Geller at the Guilds on Twitter is actually going to be joining us. He's our guest next week. Check out that Football Guys early bird, Best Ball Slims, Dynasty Orphans, and of course Dynasty Startups and the main event early bird going on right now as well. Make sure that you're saving $100 off your first team and get that free $35 team credit when you hop in those Football Guys leagues as well. And remember, as Dave said, you get it 3 times if you do it. Stay at home, stay safe. Your
weekend. This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com that was broadcast live and heard around the world. Eric and Dave will be back next week with more analysis, interviews, and advice from a guest much smarter than they are. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Dave, Two-Packer and I often do not agree on player evaluations, but he just said in the chat, Miles Sanders is the sheeple of all sheeple picks right now, the sheeple pick of all sheeple picks. You know what? I think I agree with him. Too much chance. I'm going to go a different way. So this is one of the rare occasions where Two-Packer and I
agree.
Yeah, we agree.
Right.
Wash Guy also chiming in, 7 to go on that midnight. Keep
Yeah,
cranking them out. Let's do it, people. Let's make it happen. Let's make it a Football Guys weekend. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Goodbye.